I had arranged to spend 4 days following Governor Gary Johnson around for what could end up being a historical campaign for the swing vote in the U.S. Senate. We arrived at the New Mexico PBS station moments before Governor Johnson was to give his first interview of the day. He got out of a pickup truck and said, "So glad you guys could make it. Welcome to New Mexico." This was when I realized that I couldn't just sit Gary up in front of a camera and ask him yes or no questions. He's not at ease with canned answers. He's way better off the cuff. I needed to talk to him at length and in depth. That's when I decided to toss out my notebook and have a candid conversation.
I've had the good fortune to climb the highest mountain on each of the 7 continents. And there's Karsten's Pyramid in Australasia. That mountain goes through the only active cannibalistic areas that still exist on the planet.
Now you got my attention. So when you were there,
our group was met by 3 different groups with automatic weapons. Basically, it was a shakedown. It was a shakedown by the tribal area that we were going through. So that was a trip where it was 45 miles in, 45 miles out, 7 inches of rain a day through jungle. And then at the end of this was a 1,600-foot 5'9" rock climb at the end to get to the summit.
No, that's just amazing. So let me back up a bit, and then because you're running as Libertarian, which is a very ambitious thing to do for a senator, hasn't ever happened, right?
Hasn't ever happened, and I maintain that 45% of the population today registers as independent. That's in New Mexico, that's nationwide. Where's that representation? If there were no political parties and people genuinely voted their conscience, I have to say things would be a lot better.
So as governor, that's exactly how it played out, right?
There's no surprise here. The positions that I held as governor remain so today. Now we change positions, and we change positions because I think we become better informed. I changed my mind completely on the death penalty. Look, if you base your premises on the wrong premises and find out that you've been wrong on what you thought were the facts, you need to change your mind. But I think you need to be really transparent on why you did that, and when you do that, you actually change a lot of other people's minds. One of the biggest surprises for me, having been elected governor, and I'd never been involved in politics prior to getting elected governor, but I really naively thought that at the end of the day, Democrats and Republicans would vote their conscience as opposed to voting this party line thing that I think common sense took a back seat to party line.
Along those lines, I noticed that they tried to pass a party line vote, which I was not that familiar with, and it hasn't happened where we live. Can you explain the party line vote and what that does to a third party?
Well, what they tried to do in New Mexico is to allow for you to vote straight party. Just flip one switch and everybody in your party would get a vote. And I had actually signed legislation disallowing that when I was governor. So this was somewhat capricious behavior on the part of the Secretary of State, Democrat, to do this. And she was challenged immediately by the Libertarian Party, by the Republican Party, me individually, to not have this happen. And the Supreme Court, to their credit, voted 5-0 no. This was really an effort to fuck Gary Johnson.
We've arrived in Los Alamos, otherwise known as Atomic City, the birthplace of the atom bomb. This is ground zero for the Manhattan Project. This is the place that forever changed science. This is the place that forever changed war. This is the place that forever changed humanity itself.
Man, if I win this race, the Libertarian Party nationwide is off and running. They are. Because now, as a political person, there's a viable alternative to Democrat and Republican. Conceivably, it could break the two-party monopoly.
Yeah.
I view going to Washington as really having a blast, or I wouldn't be doing this. I think it would really be a lot of fun. I've been saying, you elect an independent, libertarian, that's what I'm running as. Nobody's going to agree with everything it is that you have to say. Unless you're really a full-blown, red-blooded politician that can somehow answer every question without answering it. The issue that they have with me is I'm kind of an incremental guy. If you're looking to get from A to Z, I got my eye on Z, but hey, if I only get to D, isn't that better than sticking at A? Why are you libertarian? Why are you not just anarchist? And why are you even participating as opposed to just don't participate if you really don't believe in government at all? And people boo the yes or no answer, but if you can just get a couple minutes to give the nuance,
That makes sense.
makes sense, or at least doesn't make any sense to me, but I can see how it might make sense to others. I can't imagine that these circumstances would exist again. This is really unique. Getting to do a 10-week race and be the nominee for the U.S. Senate. Whoa! And that the stakes would be the swing vote. Chances are that's not going to happen again either.
The next morning, we drove for hours on Route 285 towards Roswell, the epicenter of unexplained phenomena. The landscape was as alien as our destination. It was nothing but miles of highway, which split the mountains that loomed godlike on each side. We kept driving. Eventually, we spotted two ominous figures in the distance. But when we got closer, it became even more interesting. The statues were of twin brothers, cutouts of what appeared to be the same man, one flanking each side of the highway. Standing no less than 30 feet tall, the brothers were looking each other directly in the eye. One pointed at the other, who seemed shocked and pointed back at himself, as if to say, "Who? Me? Yeah, you." The standoff goes back and forth into infinity. We got back onto the highway to meet a man that may bridge the gaps between these two-dimensional cutouts and actually provide a full, three-dimensional version of someone, a flesh and blood human being.
Right after I took the oath of office, I was whisked into the basement of the state capitol, and I was told what happened here in Roswell. Now, I was sworn to secrecy, but I can tell you that the Alien to Work program in state government works really, really well.
Well, speaking of aliens, while we are, if aliens did exist and we're looking down at what is happening in politics, would you think that maybe they would consider us insane?
I think there's some insanity going on right now. Yeah. This really is really crazy times that we've gotten, as partisan as we've gotten, and whatever happened to cooperation? Whatever happened to hey, let's work these things out?
Still riffing on the insanity thing. I noticed a T-shirt of Albert Einstein, and one of the quotes attributed to him is, "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results."
Yeah, and that's, I've said that, you can't imagine how many times I've said that campaigning, that very statement.
So how do we get those different results from your point of view? I know you're running for office, obviously, but, as a collective, people can be very insane, but when you meet an individual, I think they turn out a lot saner if you sit and talk to them.
No, that's right, and maybe there's something in the water in Washington, D.C., but that's the pitch I'm making too. Is as the potential swing vote in the U.S. Senate, I might have the opportunity to really bridge some gaps.
I thought that was refreshing yesterday too. A voter had come up to you and said, "Mr. Johnson, I agree with a lot of what you have to say," and you said, "Well, if you talk to me long enough, we'll probably disagree on quite a few things, but that's okay, and that's why I'm doing this."
Right. If I talk long enough to any group, guaranteed to piss off that group, guaranteed to piss everybody in the room off at some point.
No, I think that's refreshing, and I think, like, as human beings, you really do need more of that.
Well, and I'm paraphrasing George Washington, but he said that if this country ever devolves into political parties, we are done for. That it should be about individuals getting involved and then getting out. And so term limits would be a real silver bullet in this whole equation also.
Speaking of, like, individuality, it's kind of a knock on libertarians a lot of the time that you're focused so much on the individual that you aren't thinking about the collective. It's almost a level of selfishness to a degree.
Well, I would argue that the number one contribution that you can make to others, be the best that you can be. That's the one thing that you can control, and if you do that, you're going to positively impact those around you.
Johnson?
Tell me your name.
Ralph Tate.
Ralph?
He came
Nice.
to my house in 1996 when he was running for governor, I believe.
Got it. Oh,
First
man.
walked in, no one knew who he was. He came and introduced himself, sat at the kitchen table.
Oh,
It
nice.
was a great time. I was very, and I'm a lifelong Democrat.
Just give me a hug. Just a little one. Thank you.
You know what though? But you're all about the issues of the country now.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what's more important than anything else.
Well-
It's, forget about what's going on anywhere else, but you're concerned, and you're involved in New Mexico here.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're over here to see the people again.
Well, that's a fact.
It was you had an impact on me 20-something years ago, and so
Oh,
I'm
thank you,
glad
man.
you're here.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
will
you.
vote for you, even though I'm a Democrat.
Oh, man.
You take care
Thank
of
you.
yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, man.